You're listening to the VORTX podcast, featuring interviews with your favorite artists. Here's your host, Ethan Jackson.
Hey everybody, it is Ethan here with our special guest, Darren Lynn Bousman, director of a couple of the Saw films, and now he's working on a really cool haunt experience in the Kansas City area. Darren, thanks so much for hanging out today, man.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, dude. It's cool. It's normally we have rock stars and stuff on, but I'm a big horror movie guy. I actually went to film school for college. That was my education, and so it's always fun getting to chat with movie people. And I'm really interested, like you go from making all of these movies. Why was a haunt the next thing for you?
Well, hold on. Before you go on, I'm just appreciating your Funko Pops. You're terrified. Is that Art the Clown back there?
Yes, sir. Got a little
It's so,
VHS collection over there as well, and all of
you know,
that.
what's so crazy is that how quickly the horror is cyclical, where, you go 5 years ago to haunt conventions and it was Hatchet or Saw or whatever. Now you go everywhere and it's just Art the Clown. Everywhere you go, it's Terrifier, which is pretty cool that there is a new iconic serial killer. Why? Listen, I feel like I've had this long career and I've only been doing it for, I'm only 45. I feel like I'm 90, but I've done, I think this is my 18th film now. So I've done a lot of movies and I get bored very easy. And I want to do things that keep me inspired as an artist and creative as an artist. And I think that I kind of had this I don't know, I don't want to say falling out, but I had this really desensitized era of my life where movies didn't do anything for me anymore. Like, I found it hard to be scared. I found it hard to be engaged. And I think it's that movies are passive. You sit down and you watch a movie and it never changes. So I can watch Saw 3 100 times and it's the same movie every time you watch it. With these immersive theater things that we do, they're always changing. Every time you go to the show, it's different. No two shows are the same. And it's active, not passive. You as an audience member are required to unlock the story by engaging with characters and talking and walking and doing things. And so for me, it just felt like such a cool form of storytelling to, basically insist the audience was part of the storyteller with you, makes them more personal, and they have a bigger buy-in as well, where they're not just sitting in a theater for 90 minutes watching this thing. They are actively with you as a part of it. So in about 2015, I just kind of diverted my career to do less movies and more experiential stuff. And that's what this is. This is very just an experiential thing I'm doing in Bonner Springs. So I still do movies. I'm going right from this movie to shoot a new film. But I just love live. There's something cool about being there, in the space with the actors that can't be filmed. There's no way to project that, and I love that.
No, it's cool. And I think it's really rad that you're kind of coming home a little bit too. The Exiled is in Bonner Springs, not too far from Overland Park. So is that kind of a special thing to be able to do something near home?
Yeah, it is. I mean, my love for horror, my love for macabre and all of that started here in Kansas. It started with I've had this weird journey where everything has kind of come full circle. But when I was growing up, there wasn't Netflix. You couldn't open up your computer and stream. You had to go to Blockbuster. And that became a ritual. Like going to the movie theater or going to the video store was a ritual, because if you wanted, let's say, Halloween and they might have two copies of it, they might both be rented, and you'd have to wait, or you'd have to go to a different video store. And then on top of that, you would judge what you were going to watch, not because Rotten Tomatoes told you so, not because you saw it on IMDb, but because of a box art. It was based on the VHS covers. So as a kid, I was always drawn to these really graphic horror box arts. Hellraiser or Nightmare on Elm Street, or any of these films that had those really iconic images on the front, Ghoulies, Critters. I just remember the box art. So that started when I was, 9 or 10 years old here in Kansas. And then it continued through the Halloween season. I would go to the West Bottoms and I would do Edge of Hell and Devil's Dark Side and Main Street. My mom, who's a can't, mom, say hello.
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 So all of the kind of my love for the Halloween and horror stemmed from going to those haunted houses. And so when I got to college and then I went to film school, it was just a progression of that love that I had every Halloween coming and, going to the movie nights, the horror movie nights, and going to the West Bottoms and doing all those haunted houses. So yeah, it feels like I've come full circle to come back here and open up my own.
Absolutely. Exiled Crooked Rose Woods opens, I believe on Friday the 13th, which is quite the spooky opening date here in September. I'm curious, as far as the storyline goes, what can you kind of share there? Obviously, don't want to give away spoilers or anything like that.
The story is what you make it. And I think that's what's so different about this than have you been to Edge of Hell or any of those? Have you gone to those
Yeah.
before? So that is a walk-through haunt. You walk in a straight line and there's no real story. You're going to heaven, you go to hell. It's not that at all. It's an open world a little bit where when you arrive, if you buy a level 2 ticket, for example, you're kind of dropped off in the middle of this carnival, and the carnival is populated by these very unscrupulous, nefarious characters, and it's a working carnival, but you have to interact with the characters, and depending on what you say, what you do, who you follow, will dictate what happens to you. So there is a series of these like cult-like, attractive kind of Manson girls. You could follow them, or you can follow the weird hot dog salesman who's might be something wrong with this meat, or you can go into a tent and follow the fortune teller, or you can decide to do none of that and go to the bar and just talk to the bartender. And they all have these stories and these storylines going on. And then eventually you're led off into the trail, where the trail is more of a traditional haunt. But in the carnival, you can unlock things and get things that will unlock in the haunt. So you might buy cotton candy in the carnival, but that cotton candy that you bought, they give you something that's unlockable now in the haunt that no one else would get. Uh, so there's that. Then there's a level 3, which is more expensive. And it's not for everyone. That is more about drinking and getting crazy. It's its own separate part. You're in this tent, and you spend time and basically are allowed behind the scenes of what's going on. Not only do you get the carnival and the trail, but you're in this whole separate section that no one else is a part of. So there's 3 different ways into this. There's just the regular trail. That's just the more classic kind of trail. There's the carnival midway, and then there's the exclusive tent. But it's a fun night, and I think that it's an evening out for sure. The hope is that people just stay, drink, interact with the characters, and bring back some of the kind of fun that used to be Halloween every season here.
Absolutely. For folks who haven't looked at the website yet, there are age limits or restrictions on
Yeah.
these levels. It starts at 12 plus with Torment, and you get to 16 plus with Anguish, and then 21 plus with Annihilation, which I did notice was recommended that folks ride share. So I guess when you say people are going to be drinking, you mean it.
Yeah, I mean, the carnival has a bar that you have to. Sorry. The carnival has a bar that's paid. You'd have
Yeah.
to buy whatever. But if you pay for the 3rd tier, after you do the trail, you're allowed into the tent. Most people have already been drinking, but when you're allowed into the tent, there is, I believe, 6 curated drinks that you're given over the course of an hour. So I think 2 of those drinks will get you drunk. 6 is going to just put you right over. We want people to have a good time and not worry about how they're going to get home. And it's in a dark place. If you've never been to Exiled, it's in the middle of nowhere. And so, we want you to be safe. So hopefully those that want to the level 3 will take a ride share, a carpool out there. So there's no drunk driving.
Absolutely. I'm curious, how interactive does the trail really get? Like, can folks expect actors to be, touching them and stuff like
No,
that?
well, yes and no. I'm not a big into extreme haunts, and what I mean by that is it's different for a lot of people. There's something called McCamey Manor. We're not that. No one's going to force you to eat something or zip tie you and throw you and dunk you in water. That's not the kind of stuff we do.
Yeah.
It is more psychological. It is more mental, I think, than anything. You might get covered in blood. You might get gross, depending on the level. But if you bought a level 1 ticket, let's say you're 17 years old and you bought a level 1 ticket, none of that's going to happen to you. If you buy the level 2 or 3 tickets, you might get dirty. You might get whatever, but it's not that type of thing. And I think that one of the things that I've learned about these experiences is what scares people. And to me, I no longer get scared by jump scares. I might jump if someone jumps out at me once or twice, but we try to go to different things. We try to do different things. And so one of the things I did on Johnny Dare this morning, I was on his radio show and they were giving away a couple of tickets. And before I would give the ticket away, I would make the person on the line do something. And the thing could be very simple. So one of the things I asked was a guy wanted to go to level 3. And I said, I want you to film yourself reading a poem that you write about fear right now. And I want you to post it on your Instagram and your Facebook and with no explanation. And what you realize, that is more for him, that terrified him more than if I put spiders on him, because you're asking people to be vulnerable. You're asking them to show their true selves. And I think a lot of what we do is that. It is putting yourself in vulnerable positions to show a different side of yourself. Yes, there will be scary clowns. Yes, there'll be demented, ghouls and all that. But I think the big scares for me are the quieter ones, the ones that are more personal and will get under your skin in a way from a simple sentence we say to you, not someone jumping out and screaming.
Absolutely. I am someone who I love horror movies through and through, love going to haunts and everything like that, but I'm kind of easy to scare with haunts. And so reading all the descriptions with this stuff, I'm really excited to check it out this fall. It opens on September 13th. I'm curious, are there any like Easter eggs for fans of your movies and musicals throughout the haunt? I did notice one
Yeah.
thing in the trailer. There was a container of needles that got knocked over. I didn't know if that was
That's funny.
specific.
That wasn't, no, that just happened to be already there. No, that is a very much a Saw 2 thing. Not, no, I did not put that there. The thing which makes this different from other haunts is the Instagram, the Instagram and the web presence that we have on the forum. We engage anyone that buys a ticket or interacts with us. And there was a tag we've been saying, which is catch our attention, catch an experience. And what that means is that if people online try to get our attention, we do crazy stuff. We've flown people in from out of town numerous times. They've been picked up and hooded, brought in insane scenarios. If you are following online and are following any of the narratives, then we tie into a lot of different stuff. Future, past projects of mine. I try not to tie it into Saw or like IPs like that because I want them to be immersed in this world. But from an Easter egg standpoint, there's a million Easter eggs for those that pay attention on the what's called an ARG, the alternate reality game that's taking place right now and will continue to take place until we close. And I encourage people to go down that rabbit hole because it's deep and dark and crazy.
Absolutely. You know, that they've been talking about how the experience really starts before you even get to the haunt, which I think is a
It
really
does.
unique situation with Exiled coming up. I do have to ask a little bit about Saw. Saw 2 is really, really far up there for me. And the Needle Pit is probably my favorite Saw trap. So I'm curious, what was the inspiration behind that one?
Um, when I did, when I first started, and it's progressively gotten worse and more, and it got really, in my mind, over the top. They had laser beams and they had, ridiculous like that. I wanted to keep all the traps grounded, and make them more simplistic. So, in Saw 2, what are the most simplistic fears? Well, I had a fear of needles, I had a fear of fire, I had a fear of razors. And so we just looked at what is the most basic fear, and then how do we visualize that in a way that is horrific. Um, Originally, we thought it was going to be a couple thousand needles, but it ended up being hundreds of thousands of needles, or however many, because the pit was so large. that every time we thought we had enough, we weren't even close. But yeah, I think it's that fear of small pain is one of a visual that stuck with me for a long time is from a movie called Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon, and there's a scene in it where a girl puts her hands on the ground and trying to stop herself, and one of her nails pops off, and that was I remember cringing at that, and that upset me more than people getting decapitated because it was something I can understand that I could look at that and understand that, and I think needles is something that everyone can understand, and I think that the griminess of it, uh, and then add Charlie Clouser's music to it, and it became in my mind probably one of the most iconic traps in the Saw universe.
Absolutely. I know a lot of folks are curious. Is there any chance we'll ever get to see that director's cut of Spiral with all the stuff that you had to cut
Oh,
out to get the rating? I know it's been a
well,
couple years.
I don't know. I think that Spiral was a sad story because I think if Spiral would have come out when it was supposed to, it would have been a much different trajectory. I mean, we finished filming right before the pandemic. They had released the campaign on it, the trailer, all that. Then COVID came and shut us all down, and we had to wait a year. Um, I think that in that year, there was a lot of overthinking going on with the edit. There was a lot of appeasing, trying to get that rating. And I think that there was this attempt to really make this commercial film with these two very commercial actors. Um, I'm really sad about a lot of stuff that was cut out. And I'll tell you honestly, my a lot of the sadness isn't for the violence that was cut out. It was for the other things. The character building, a lot of those transitional shots that I really dig were cut out. Um, I'll call it pretentious filmmaking that was lost. Um, and I think I'm sad about that. I think that the version that I had hoped would have gone out is a much more character driven thing. Um, so I don't know. There's probably 40 minutes of film that did not make the final cut. And some of it's the same scenes. They're just done differently. Like there's a scene in the beginning where when Chris Rock does his whole Forrest Gump scene, and then they go in and they rob the thing. That was one take, no cuts. And what was great about it at the time was you followed him from the hotel room out the hallway, down 6 flights of stairs, into an elevator, out the car, into this police thing in one sequence of 3.5 minutes. Well, that got cut down to 45 seconds. There's a bunch of scenes that are like that the camera work is just really dynamic. That got truncated down to try to make it like 90 minutes, whatever the runtime was. So, for me, from just the director standpoint, I would love people to see that because I'm really proud of the work that we did there. And there was a lot of just small differences that I think would have made a big impact. So, never say never, but probably on the 20-year 4K or 8K or 16K, whatever it is at that point, maybe they'll re-release it with my director's cut.
That would be rad. Do you ever see yourself returning to the franchise at this point? Because I know Spiral was something new for you. You're like, oh, this is a different thing. I'll come back. But do you ever see yourself returning again?
You know what I originally wanted to do, and I was not able to do it. It was just not in the cards for me. Was I wanted to kill the franchise. I wanted to put the final nail in the coffin, and I still have a pitch on how to do it that I think would be beautiful and awesome. I would come back for that if it was the death of the franchise, because I have a really, I think, interesting take on it. But to do another sequel doesn't really excite me. And I think it's a stick of dynamite. The fans are so there was a lot of hate on Spiral because I think fans wanted it to be something it wasn't, as opposed to accepting what it was. And I think that idea was we wanted to do a series of movies that were set in the Saw universe, but were not Saw films. Meaning they were just tangent, they were one-offs. And I think so many people wanted John Kramer, they wanted Billy, and that wasn't what this was. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. And I think as a standalone film, I'm really happy with the movie. I'm really proud of it. I think the mistake though is trying to even use the word Saw in it. There's a new movie coming out that I want to see I think it's called Apartment 7A. And
Oh
it's the
yeah.
new Rosemary's Baby thing. And I like the marketing because on the poster right now, it doesn't even have Rosemary, it just says Apartment 7A. Now, if you watch the trailer, you realize it's a Rosemary's Baby prequel, but I love that because it's, and I think that's the kind of stuff I wish we would have done, is not say the word Saw, let people realize it was a Saw film, or at least set in that universe. But, again, never say never. I said I would never come back after Saw 4, and there I am.
Well, Spiral is it's top 3 for me in Saw films. I absolutely love it. And I was rooting for the I know you talked a little bit during the press tour for that film about doing more of those one-off movies, and I was rooting for that, but who knows? Hopefully it gets a second life at some point. Loved it. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you hanging out with me today, folks. I'm excited for Exiled, Crooked Rose Woods opening up Friday, September 13th in Bonner Springs. Are you gonna be there at all, or are you kind of working hands off?
So I'll be here on the soft opening too. We're doing big thing with these are they get infinitely better the longer they go on, because you're dealing with not only scripts, but you're dealing with improv. You're dealing with, so I think that the first weekend is getting everyone up to speed on how it works. Then the next weekend we're calling the grand opening. I'll be at both of those weekends.
Okay.
This is such a new thing, I think, for Kansas, which I'm excited about. Just go in and don't expect Edge of Hell. Don't expect those type of things, because that's not what this is. It's different. It's a cross between a Jamboree hoedown. It's like if Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, and a David Lynch movie all just kind of like had a baby, and you walk through that. That's kind of what it is.
That's awesome. Well, tickets
Is
are
it a
available right now.
Midsummer shirt? What's your shirt?
It is. It's like a death metal.
I was gonna say, I thought it was like a
Midsummer
heavy
shirt.
metal shirt, but I was like, I think that says Summer.
It
That's
is.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, hey, tickets are available right now at exiledkc.com. Be sure to grab those. And Darren, I am looking forward to seeing you at the Hot, man.
Yes, will do, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the VORTX podcast. Catch Ethan inside the VORTX every Sunday night from 9 to midnight on Topeka's Rock Leader, V100.